This is kind of a hybrid meeting, if you will. The main focus today, even though I put the agenda together, and really the only new thing was added was the electronics recycling event that is coming up in August, the end of August, that Mark Johns is sponsoring. And I just want to make sure folks were aware of that. We'll put it out in my update a few times between now and then. And this one's kind of a unique one in that essentially it's by appointment. You just can't show up. You have to do by appointment, and then they've got some criteria that limits what you can bring, specifically TV monitors. So, but today really we wanted to come together and start to have a working session on our RFP. And everyone received an email from our friend Sarah, who has been kind enough to pull information together and kind of start a framework for this, recognizing that this is not just looking to go out and buy a couple of tires. It's a little bit more detailed than that. And I know Phyllis has provided some assistance on this as well. So thank you to both Sarah and Phyllis for really doing some of the heavy lifting. And if I've missed anybody, I apologize. That's not my intent. So I thought it might be good. I might give you the floor for a couple of minutes for some initial thoughts, and then from there we can kind of walk through. And then what I did, and I may not have made enough copies, and I apologize, but what I did, if I could borrow that for a minute, what I did, I took the liberty of putting together a draft of a calendar where if we kind of follow these dates, that might bring us to a closure for when we would be looking to hire, if you will, a CCA administrator. So it starts with today and the work that we're going to be doing, and then through the calendar for the rest of the year, kind of identifies some key points for town board review and approval at work sessions, town board resolutions authorizing, and then town board resolution awarding contracts. So not cast in stone, just thought it would be a good tool for us to look at and kind of work towards. So maybe with that, Sarah, if you wouldn't mind kind of bringing us kind of up to speed with some of the things you've been doing.
So the committee, last time we met, we discussed starting with the NYSERDA RFP template. So that's what we started with. It very much was an overview, I think. That's kind of the conclusion that Mark, Valentine, Phyllis, and I came to when looking at it. So very big picture. Once we got into it, a lot of questions came up of the details. So incorporation dates, what kind of information were we looking for from the different proposing groups, the different administrators that we would have coming to us, as well as the more technical things like what dates were we going to do, or did we want to have more information, like did we want to keep references to multiple municipalities to have that open-ended so that we could potentially go towards joining with other municipalities, or if we wanted to start off as having it just for the town of Penfield. Then with those questions, we felt it was necessary to find more example RFPs. So Brookhaven was the one that we came to. Brookhaven is on Long Island. In this past year,
also happens to be the town my wife is from.
Oh, really? So they're under the Long Island Power Authority. This past year, the Long Island Power Authority adopted a resolution to allow tariffs so that the different municipalities within that area could adopt their own local laws and start using CCAs. So Brookhaven's one of 3 municipalities in that area that did
adopt a local law. One of those three at this point has adopted the local law and went out to RFP, went out to bids, and has adopted an administrator. They adopted Jewel. The other two have not gotten past the RFP at this point from everything that we can currently find. From the RFPs that we have, the example ones, Brookhaven was very thorough. It both had goals as well as the technical details that we felt were necessary for an RFP. It didn't have some things like other sources of energy. So like if we want to do more electric stations, like power stations, I don't have the right wording. Thank you. Like EV charging stations. Or if we want to do more roof-mounted solar like we have like on the community center or something like that, that wasn't part of the RFP for Brookhaven, but it is part of the RFP for NYSERDA. Discussing it in our smaller group, we didn't feel that at this time that was necessary to have in the RFP because that's something that we've already been doing as a town, and we didn't feel it was necessary to include with CCA. If that's something that the group as a whole, EEAC, feels is necessary to include, we can absolutely include that and go in that direction. But we wanted to make our RFP be for CCA as much as possible and get all of those details as far and as thorough as we could. So that is why currently the Brookhaven template is what we prefer, but we did move forward with the NYSERDA one because that's what was requested. So both of them are as up to date as possible, excluding the dates because that's not something we could have chosen.
Sure.
And items like that.
Right, right. And those are some of the things that as we, start to get that honed down, those dates can then be put in there and we can kind of list that out accordingly. I think the details are in all of the sections, for the purpose, the goals, the expectations, all of those types of things. I think that's where we want to get things nailed down, where we feel comfortable as a group, and then from there go to the town board because, as I've said before, the town board is really looking for us to kind of be their guide for this and to identify any concerns and issues, any pitfalls, anything like that, so that when we get to a point that we pass a town board resolution authorizing going out for proposals, that it's as complete as possible. And more importantly, and Bob and I have talked about this recently, how do we make sure that we get what's in the town's best interest, town of Penfield's best interest overall as we move forward. So for next steps, I know you, as you went through, you had a number of notes, and I did take a look at both of these, and I would tend to agree with you that the flow for NYSERDA, it seems to be a little bit choppy, if you will. It was kind of maybe a guide or a template that the folks could take and then kind of build from there. And then the one that you worked with for Brookhaven and kind of put that together and then left various areas for comments and things like that seems to be just a lot, and feels to me to be just a lot more complete. And if I were a group, an individual or a group, and I was responding to this one feels a little bit more complete and detailed for me. And I'll admit that there are some aspects we may not totally know what we don't know, but it really seemed to kind of hit the nail on the head as far as details and factual data and what have you. So.
I had a thought last night, thinking about the two different ones too. I don't think either of them required that the administrator So we're asking that they have a track record and they have experience in New York, but I don't think any of them asked to show the performance of the energy costs over time, especially as that now some of these communities have been renewing, they're into their second contract. I would like to see the performance of what they negotiated against the baseline utility. And that goes all the way back to that document that you showed us a while ago, that graph showing
Right,
ESCOs.
right.
So I'd like to see some history of costs added into the RFP.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it addresses that.
And the early ones
Yeah.
wouldn't have asked that because it was all so new, but now that we're doing it best, not first, we can we can ask for a little history.
Change the world.
And we may, I mean, I don't know this, but we may find some that have the history and some that don't. So I think
Well, I mean, the plan administrator, they should be able to show, we negotiated this for this, this contract and.
But I think
here's-
I think my point is that there may be some out there that while they
that are so new,
they
yeah.
have received the nod to be the administrator may not have some of that historical data
Right.
yet.
Yeah, where it's available, I guess.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
available, we would like to see.
I think that would be something that we could include, and then within our point system, have that be one of those extraneous details that it can add to it, but it wouldn't take away from other
from it.
people.
Yeah.
Because we do have in our point system, specifically for the Brookhaven, it's out of 100 points, but we can, we have an option to essentially give them extra.
Extra credit?
Yeah, yeah, like it sounds silly, but if they show, if we can define why they are above and beyond, we can do that.
Sure.
Just as if none of the administrators meet our criteria or meet what we're looking for, we can deny all of the
I
bids.
was just going to say, yeah.
And that is an option.
And that is an option, yep. And that's built in typically to most RFPs that we put out, that we have, the town has the right to either accept and/or reject any and all
Yep.
overall, so. So we've got both of these. Again, Sarah has gone down through and has a number of notes in the margin where, in addition to all of it, but has asked for, some thoughts, comments, and looking for some input, feedback. So how does the group want to go forward? Do we want to kind of go page by page on this?
If that works for the group, I have them both digitally so everyone can see them and be on the same page. It was a little short notice to be able to print them out.
No,
And
that's-
sorry about that.
I mean, I have it.
Yeah,
But-
I printed it. I printed
but
it.
I
whatever
probably
works
wouldn't have
best.
printed. I've got it. I probably would.
I was going to say, the two techies, I'm sandwiched between the
I
two
am not-
techies here.
I am not remotely.
One
close to a
engineer, one
techie.
lawyer.
COVID has taught me to use my computer a lot more and print a lot less.
Well, you're saving the environment by using less paper. It's a lot of
Lawyers
pages.
do not save the environment.
A little.
And if you're attorneys like Dick Horowitz and Joe Plathania, it's stacks and stacks of paper.
My wife walked into my makeshift office at one point, maybe in early May, and I'd been working on a big motion to federal court down in Brooklyn.
Shut that off.
And she walked into case law that was like stacked up to here, and she goes, "Dear God." Yeah.
And oh, by the way, his wife works in an attorney's office.
No, she doesn't. No, she works.
Why did I think?
No, she works. She works for
Oh,
a
my
company
mistake. I apologize.
called Allegis Global Services. So they're like a middleman between.
Yeah.
Between recruiting firms and her client's T. Rowe Price. So getting contract employees and T. Rowe Price.
I was gonna say, my next door neighbor is a lawyer working from home, and I got his mail the other day, and I went over and opened his mailbox, and he had it shoved full of
Oh.
mail to come out.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
like
wow.
these big, thick packages of like,
Oh, man.
priority mail envelopes.
Yeah, lawyers do
And I'm
not
like,
save
"Whoa."
paper. We're lagging behind in everything.
It's just a tiny bit.
Okay, so the only thing I have to figure out is how to make the comments show up. I've got a cute little comment icon here on my.
Oh, I can help.
It's like,
So if you go up to review on the top.
oh, review, that might be it. Okay. Where's
And then you
comments?
should be
Show
able
the
to-
comments.
yep.
There we go. Okay. Like it's so elegant.
Okay, so,
I've got an extra, because my printer decided to print two.
Oh
of
my
the-
God, the waste, the waste.
I don't
Of
have a
the-
hard copy, so
Of the NYSERDA one.
all my notes are on the one that you ended up with, so, and I wasn't going to print another one.
Very good. No waste occurred.
I did have to put more paper in
Thank
the
you.
printer too.
got it.
So is it okay that we start with the Brookhaven one?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah, no,
I think because if Brookhaven one is what you're currently leaning to,
It's
let's
just
go
so
with
much
that
more
one.
thorough.
Yeah,
By
I would,
about 20 pages.
32. Yeah.
It's 32 pages
It's-
longer
No, it's more
than the other
thorough
one?
by 20 pages.
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
by
yes,
pages.
yes.
Well, that has some of our stuff in there too, some of our boilerplate, right?
Well,
In the
so
back?
it's some of ours and then some of theirs modified.
Okay.
Yep.
And after a pass through this, another task would be to take the other RFP and cross-reference it and make sure there's no really good nuggets that we didn't
that
catch.
fell through the cracks. Yeah.
And then also to make a decision, especially with the other RFP, there's the appendix on the clean energy product examples and deciding if we want to include clean energy products in our RFP, or if we do want to keep those as a separate thing that, because we have been doing that separately already, if we want to keep that separate, or if we want to include that with CCA.
So what's I guess I'm not quite sure, what's the impact of that? Because I thought the clean product would make me think that we were asking them to provide clean energy sources, but.
So my understanding currently is that we can ask them to do that. I don't fully understand the cost associated with that, and that's not clear anywhere. Like, from any research that I've done, that's not clear anywhere. And I haven't been able to find any towns that have already started doing that.
Okay.
And like including that in their actual CCA program.
Okay, so is that what that proposal you think, or that section is asking them to do, or? Because
So-
then you mentioned car chargers and solar
So that's
panels.
part of that section,
Okay.
like that's one of the options in the appendix, as well as like community solar, rooftop solar, battery storage. Those are all just options for clean energy products. And there's a section within that NYSERDA one, asking them, let me find it.
What page is that? Jean?
Page 11 is the appendix.
So that's because you're kind of, one of the vibes I got from all of the people that came in to propose this to us
Mhm.
was that they wanted us to lean heavily toward having clean energy be the option.
Sure, of
And yet,
course.
and yet nobody's really
Oh.
formalized that?
Wait,
No,
there's,
those are
there's
different
two,
things.
yeah, two things. There's, within CCA, you want,
100%.
which flavor do you want?
Okay.
One is 100% clean energy, the other is some fossil fuel. So there's grades of energy from clean to having some fossil. This other thing is talking about associated products. Like, as long as you're doing this, do you want to do these things too, which are like solar and.
Charging stations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
things like that.
So
It
in
would
my
be
s-
to add them in as opposed to making them as they are now, standalone town project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So on page 3 of NYSERDA, number 4, clean energy products and services, there's a section, offer a compelling and robust plan to provide and market clean energy products and services to the community, and it goes on. I haven't been able to find any CCA programs that already are doing that.
Okay.
So I don't, at this time, fully understand
The
the whole scope
dynamics.
of that and
Yeah.
who pays for it, how all of it works.
It kind of feels like setting up the stage for more marketing opportunities.
Yeah, it does.
Does anyone else
Probably.
think that?
Yeah.
It's like, as long as we're here, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
it feels like an upsell situation, but I can't say anything more about that, other than that was my reaction when I saw that.
So I think it's one of those ones that, that we put in the parking lot for now, so that we go through the Brookhaven item and talk about any of the questions that are out there and look for those. We'll keep that aspect in the parking lot, not that we'll forget it, but we'll maybe go through it and then talk about, is that something that we make part of or consciously not make part of?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that I've got a strong feeling one way or the other right now, other than to say it sounds like we need a little bit more information that you've actually gone out but haven't been able to find, you know, so.
And another option with that is, if there's an administrator that can provide that type of thing, there are sections in our RFP that give them the opportunity to offer that are kind of open-ended, where
Open-ended.
they can say, we have this service available, this puts us above other administrators, come pick us. And it's realistically their job in a bid to offer those types of services.
Right.
Right.
And make themselves stand out.
I was going to say, makes them potentially more competitive,
Yeah.
more valuable, all of those types of things.
And that would all completely fit under that extra credit,
Okay,
so.
all right. So why don't we jump back? I'm not sure we have to spend a lot of time on page one, because that's kind of the dates, and I think we need the body and comfortable with the body before then we go ahead. And then the draft calendar that I floated out there, that might help us as we get closer to work towards something, so.
So just to compare your draft calendar with the timeline there, is there enough time to do the technical question section? It's kind of like that's not included in your calendar.
So,
I'm trying to look at it. So if we issue the RFP and then
so
they
what,
basically have, 5 weeks to get the proposal back, is there enough of a loop time in there for them to say, here's the questions we have on?
yeah, so maybe what I didn't do as good of a job when I put my chicken scratch, into type. I was thinking of that period of time, November 16th through, so proposals come in on that Friday, and that's another whole question now that I look at it. Do we have the proposals come in on November 12th instead of Friday the 13th? Some people might say maybe that's what we do. And then I thought from that Monday, the 16th of November through December 4th, that the EAC had the opportunity to review the proposals. So I guess the question on the table is that
That's not the same
So,
topic, that's not the same thing.
yeah, so the technical questions would
Sorry.
be if
Yep,
the
go ahead.
administrator has questions for us.
Good point. Yes. Okay.
You said A, did you really mean A and a half?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What the heck are you talking about?
And then we would need to, so like, say Jewel as an administrator came to us with question A.
Yeah.
And say Mega came to us with question B, we would need to publish those in an addendum so that Jewel knows question B and Mega knows question
Question A. Right. Right.
Yeah. So that's what that time
Yep.
is needed for. I don't know what time frame we need for that right now.
I don't either. So we can go back and again
Maybe we can
revisit
sit
that.
down
If
and
we need
discuss that with
to
Mark.
add a little bit more, certainly we can do that. So yes, we need to make sure we're providing them with all the information that they can give us an appropriate proposal for their RFP. Okay, I'll make a note on that.
Sarah, one thing that came to mind, because you mentioned the clean energy products, and reading through the Brookhaven one, is there a statement or a section about customer privacy?
Yes, there is.
Okay, I guess I maybe missed that one.
Okay.
Because I don't know to what extent an administrator then would go out and market other products. And then if there was a situation where a customer could opt out of that or say, no, I don't want to receive this, just getting more, I don't know, junk mail, contacts that they don't want to have to deal with, selling of the contact list, of the customer list, things like that, just a privacy kind of thing.
There is a section on privacy, and I wish I could remember what letter it
Okay.
is. But there's also regulations under CCA by New York State with privacy that fit under that. I wish I could remember all of the details for it.
Sure.
I'll have to look that up because specifically to that point, if there isn't anything pertaining them to selling contact lists or marketing anything, I think it would benefit us to have something in there that you're not allowed to market other services or something along those lines. Just because I don't think we would want to have them do that to our residents.
Right.
So I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye out for that language.
So I have skipped page 1, 2, and 3, which essentially is the front with contact information and timeline, table of contents, and I've kind of picked up on item 4 from an introduction and purpose, and then from there. So I guess we can go down through those pages, Sarah, and then if there's anything that jumps out, let's put it on the table and talk about it.
Okay.
So from a purpose standpoint, welcome, Mr. Valentine. Good afternoon. Come right up.
You should put quotations around the word town. The town of Penfield, parentheses, town. That's the third, fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Right there.
Here. Right?
Yep.
Good, we'll get a legal editor in here.
That is not my
One of the
forte.
many reasons. One of the many reasons he's sitting here. That legal hat. So we're on page 4 of the Brookhaven, Mark, RFP. Yep. Just starting to go down page by page here to see if there's anything that jumps out that we want to just put on the table for discussion.
I did a real quick internet search on technical questions, and they call it a bidders meeting, something like that. And they basically say it should be halfway during the 4 to 6 week response time.
Okay.
So they really don't include it as a separate, we really have to include it as a separate date, but it sounds like it would be.
Within the time we give them.
October 7th to November 12th.
Right.
You know, like sometime.
So
in there.
that timeline would be
Yeah.
reasonable.
So you give them like 2 weeks to figure out what questions they have, and then a week for us to answer the questions.
Answer the
and then
questions, yeah.
That still gives them 2 weeks to.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. All right.
Why
So,
did you put our history in there?
That was help from our planning department.
all right, how about item B, background? Anything jump out there? Okay, our first notation is under statement of qualifications, where Sarah has highlighted specifically item 3 with her note about good for any administrator with a separate local facilitator.
And some of those comments are in there specifically because if we went towards the NYSERDA one, I wanted to make sure that certain things would get pushed.
So that sounds like something that we inherently would prefer. It's not somebody from Oshkosh trying to
So
do that, or would we not, would it not matter?
I know that at least one administrator currently has a local facilitator in Rochester. I know that another one like has a call center that's open 24 hours that say resident Joe somebody, it's 4 in the morning and something's going on and he has a question, he can call this person and get a hold of someone. Local facilitator may not have somebody working at 4 in the morning. So there's a give and take where you may be able to get one thing from local administrator that you can't get from the other thing, but from the other thing you can get something that you can't from local administrator.
Right.
So I think there's positives and negatives to
No,
both.
the local facilitator is a.
Sorry, local facilitator, I mean.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that person a employee of the administrator, or is it?
They
It's a
have to-
contract.
Yeah, and they have to identify, there's a whole list of, if you're not doing this and subcontracting, then that all has to be identified along with resumes and contact information and whatnot.
Which we'll get to.
So there's
So I don't
customer
actually know
service.
which one's better, truthfully.
Yeah.
Like,
There's-
to straight up answer your question.
There's customer service for residents, and then there's customer service for the town.
Right.
And there are a couple of layers there.
Yeah.
And it would seem to me that we'd want the best of both for our customers and then obviously for ourselves, who ultimately we serve the customers.
Now, would 5 and 6 give them the opportunity to show us their performance? I guess client testimonials isn't facts and figures necessarily, is it?
Yeah. I think if possible, and the committee would agree, I'd want to include asking for facts and figures to see the difference between year 2 and year 8.
Yeah, so this is, and that's.
So in section 5 and 6, it's more of the touchy-feely sort of things.
Yeah.
Or a lot of the touchy-feely, as opposed to, it's tough being an engineer sometimes.
It is.
Where's the facts?
So is there an opportunity under item 6, to specifically call that out? It talks about relevant experience, and is that an opportunity there within that to expand that out a little bit more, to ask about the data, performance
Is it
data?
appropriate to ask for a sheet in the appendix with that information?
I'm just
In the
thinking if
spot?
you're asking for 3 clients, that it would make sense to say, if you pick them to provide client testimonials, show us the results for those as well. So I would say.
So
put it
those,
right.
the facts of
Yeah.
the
I think they would.
negotiated prices.
You
and-
think that the town of Smithville or whatever
Yeah.
would, and here's the negotiated rate we got for them versus it's 100% renewable,
Mhm.
it's, you know, it's such and such a rate, you think they would want to provide that as part of their,
Right.
Being-
You know,
just-
so whether you just say 3 client testimonials, including performance results, or something
Mhm.
simple like that, that may be submitted as an appendix.
Are we interested in knowing percentages of opt-out over time? Is that useful information?
I guess we'd have to think about what would be the demonstration of performance that we would want to see.
And then how would that, if we were to ask for that opt-out data, how would that benefit us? And would that affect any decisions or opinions?
Yeah,
That's what I'm not sure.
that's basically why I asked too. Do we want to know it? I think Mark and I saw this goes back a while now, but we did see an increasing trend of opt-out in some communities. It was year over year, there were more
yeah, and I don't know
opting out, but the
what
program's
that's attributable
designed
to, or is
is
that,
opt-out. I mean,
some people may not
Right.
even know they're in until you
It's
know, look at the
too
utility
late.
bill, and years down the road, they go, hey,
yeah.
what am I in? And is even to the best.
Maybe it would, if I saw a trend, I would want to know why, and maybe I would just want to direct it into making sure the communications addressed whatever was the cause. So it would become a communications.
So maybe that could be
topic.
included under communications, or would we want that under this section?
I think I'd like to see it
With
under
the
performance.
performance.
And then I think I would address it through communications.
Yeah.
I mean, it might, assuming we're going to interview people are going to provide their proposals, and then typically have an interview process, that's kind of a good question under that. We see in ABC Town that it's
You lost
progressive-
25%
it's
every year.
progressively opted out. What is your thought of why, or, you know, that they can say, well, you know.
Well, it'd be good
it's
to
just
know
the
what's
demographics.
the impact of the program too,
Yeah.
with that. And
Mhm.
maybe they go, actually, it's working more efficiently with 10% less people. We don't know why, but.
Yeah,
Or,
that's- we've seen it.
or we
always-
got some bad publicity and we're working on overcoming it and we expect that trend to reverse. Or, you know, it would be good for them to be
Mhm.
asked that
I think
question
it's
if
a
we
good
do see that
conversation,
trend.
part of that
It's like-
interview process
Yeah.
to vet them out. You
Yeah,
know,
I would
we didn't
think-
have as good a communication as we thought, and
Yeah.
Right.
could have done a better job of communicating up front. And I think, as we've said, the communication is going to be
It's going to be the key.
the key to all of this. So I think that's going to be an important element of it.
Yeah, if the opt-out numbers for maybe some communities are too great, then what that's going to affect is the contract for the next time period, conceivably, because you're going to have a smaller customer base.
Right.
So that's, over time, that's obviously going to be, I would think, linked to the performance of the administrator.
I think your negotiations, the next time you go out for bid, you've got only half the towns in or something.
Right.
And you're going to, you know, you may not have as much leverage to negotiate a better price.
Right.
Yeah, so I would agree that those two bits of information, the performance and the opt-out, would be useful together, because if the performance goes down and you don't have the opting out, then we have more questions why it's going down. But if you have a large number of people opting out, then it would make more sense why it's going down.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's useful. So we'll form that to fit. I did have a comment in section 6, 3 and 5. Are those two similar, and do we want or need both?
I think you need to, before we get there, I think you need to
Okay,
take
sorry.
out for example.
Well, I do think it is a for
sorry.
example.
Oh,
But don't we want those? So to me, when I see for example, it's examples of information that we want rather than include this information.
Yeah, and I thought this is if you're gonna describe your relevant experience, here are some things that we might be interested in. But you can have more, or you can have different ones.
Or you could
So-
have less.
Okay.
Do we want all of them, or do we want any mixture thereof?
I mean, I think that that's the question. So if you don't care that they answer 4,
I guess
Yeah,
then.
for example, they
For example.
they answer 1 or 2 and go, well,
Yeah.
here's the 2
Yeah.
that I picked and went off of
Yeah.
that. If you want all 6, you take out, for example, if you only
include,
let them choose what they want to
or
provide.
provide information,
So-
including but not limited to
Right.
that. So they can add more information if they want, but not.
And what's the minimum that we want, that we're requiring?
Yeah, I think if we keep 4 examples, then we'll want to include a minimum thereof, so that they're not answering one and not only including one thing. So,
If we actually like the
Just-
questions, and I like the questions, then maybe we do just actually,
take out, for example.
Well, maybe we write specifically.
Yeah,
Or-
included but not, including not limited to.
as much as possible,
Yeah.
please include, or something like that, because you might have somebody that, well, I think anybody can weasel, put some sort of weasel words in on some of this stuff, but,
But I
Could
think
be a
that's the
colon,
lead
right?
into your interview
Yeah.
is right there. They've already kind of, this is what we're going to ask you,
Yeah.
this is what we're looking for, so you better at least
so now we're
know
back
this if you're going
to
to
3
submit.
and 5 the same, or similar enough, or. With a little slightly bit of gobbledygook.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of discussion about it, which is why it came to you.
I like 5 personally way more than I like 3.
3 seems like they're trying to ask too many questions in one question.
3 to me is more of a, you should consider putting this in your proposal perhaps, but not a description of their experience. To me, it would have been more of a past, have there been opportunities for the CCA communities? Or have you created opportunities? Or how have you, I guess it would have to be how have you if we're going based on
So maybe we
experience.
can rephrase that question.
Yeah. How else? Yeah, I think that's why 5 appeals much more, and I really think it's asking such similar information.
I think, I agree with you. I'd say strike 3.
Take 3 out.
And use 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just jump from 2 to 4, because that's always fun to do.
Just see if they're paying
What?
attention.
Did I do that, did
I said don't renumber, in other words, don't renumber, because that's always fun
Oh.
to do. Like, wait, where's
Oh.
3?
Like, but it does it automatically. Did I mess up?
That's the magic.
I actually we have an entire system, and for some reason, there's no section 8 on 2/3 of the books from all of the sites that we have, and I keep going, where's section 8? And finally, somebody actually has one with a section 8, and what had happened was section 1 had got divided in half. And so they ended up with a section 8. Well, they were the model, and so everybody else has this empty section 8 in theirs, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, goodness.
Why is there no 8?
So are you comfortable moving to scopes of services?
That's where we are.
So our big concern with this here was that it didn't detail enough for education. The case that is referenced in the Brookhaven one is one of the original cases in New York State that allows CCAs to be developed. So it really doesn't have a ton of detail for education, and it actually references bringing education, like the education models and proposals, to the state for approval, which doesn't seem applicable anymore. So I didn't want to just simply take it out because I wanted to be able to explain that and reference that for everyone here. I don't think we need to keep that case number in there at this point. But I do think that we need some kind of detail for education, whether that we add a section somewhere later detailing it, or we put something in the appendices detailing what we want for education. But just because that's such a large thing in CCAs, it seems very necessary. So I'm going to take that part out if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah, that is the ruling that made CCAs possible.
Yes.
And I think that's referenced elsewhere earlier in the document, just as background anyways.
Yeah. But yes, there does need to be
I think this is the
something in
NYSERDA.
there about letting people know that this is happening and why, right?
I agree completely,
And that's
but
not
the
there?
NYSERDA one also didn't have details on what education materials there are or how you're reaching out to the public, whether there's public hearings or whether there's online data, whether it's a website, or just how the public is notified, any of that stuff.
Do we want to put it on them by asking them in their proposal how they plan on educating and providing the education required? Because this is
Yeah.
a scope of duty, so I think educate and notify the public, that's within their scope of duties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what is your
And
typical,
then provide how you're gonna do it, so we can compare what everybody else is doing.
yeah, what is your
Okay.
typical communication process? How do you,
So then maybe-
what materials?
To me, that should almost be a section all on its own, shouldn't it?
Well, so we do have sections later, like ongoing services, and then we detail questions to elicit information about their ongoing services. Maybe later we include, well, probably not K, but we pushed a section down, maybe F is education, and we have specific questions pertaining to education of how do you plan to notify the public, and some other questions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and then if you start seeing a discrepancy between all of these companies, then
Yeah.
maybe we go back to them.
Yeah, the NYSERDA one simply says, conduct comprehensive community education and outreach. And I can say that there are examples that are many, many pages long of other communities downstate. They go out for pages and show all the public meetings, neighborhood meetings, publications, web stuff, it's all itemized. So the information is out there that other communities have done, so whoever their plan administrator is, they should be able to grab that.
Right.
But I think it's good to know what they're proposing, and if they're coming back with a rate, what does that include? If they got one meeting, they're doing the bare bones one meeting, and we send out one postcard, and that's it. Maybe that's why they're at a lower rate than somebody else is versus somebody
Yeah.
that's gonna do a more robust communication plan and, something that we think we need. And
Yeah, so we definitely need some words. So what did the NYSERDA one was just almost as terse though, huh?
Yes.
Yeah,
Huh.
Yeah. So we can absolutely come up with an additional
Can we do the
section.
same thing, draft and submit an education and public notification plan?
We
Like-
can.
Like clone number 1 a little bit?
Oh, yeah,
I
absolutely.
think you turn it back on them and
Yeah.
have them provide what their communication plan is and how they plan on informing the residents. And
I mean, and I would almost actually clone that one, except for instead of implementation or
Sure. Make it applicable.
education, public notification plan incorporating local goals and priorities, provide sample plans and.
Sure. And then it depends how much detail we want to put in it. So
Yeah.
we can do it as simply as taking number 1 and making it applicable to number 2, education.
Yeah,
We can do that, and then additionally, put a section in proposal information, which is where there's the breakdown of
Yeah.
all of these different sections with the different questions. and then put questions in to specify certain types of information.
Yes.
It's up to the committee of how far we want to go with that. If we want to put it completely on them to develop the education plan, or if we want to also do some poking questions.
For some combination thereof.
Yeah, do we have a strong, I mean, I hate to, like, ask things to be too specific, because then that's leading them down a path, and somebody might wow us with a different way of looking at things if we leave it open-ended.
Sure.
So that's like kind of the challenge that we have. We've seen things that we think we like.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen things that we think are smoke and mirrors. So, you know,
There's, I think that everyone that we've met has said that they do all the communications, and they do this, and they do that, and they do the follow-up. So it's reasonable to expect a detailed plan on it. But no, I don't think anyone really shied away from it,
right,
but some of it was a little more vague than others.
right.
But it's good to have it documented, and then as we move
Yeah.
forward, well, in your plan, you said you had 3 meetings and you had.
Right.
I mean, because I would
we've
like to
gotta-
see proposed timelines is like one of the things I know I would like to see with it. You know, how often, how,
And you've got a plan moving forward, and you know what to
Yeah.
expect, and you know what.
within 3 months, within 6 months, this didn't happen, in 6 months, what happened? Something to hold them accountable.
Would you want example documents?
Yes.
We would love, yeah. Provide sample, like, just like they did with the top ones, provide sample plans as desired, or examples of,
Past education materials.
yeah. Successful education materials.
We don't submit unsuccessful ones.
Well, the only reason that I say that is it's funny, because
This
one of
one
the
really stunk.
people like gave us their spiel, and they touted, and we did this and we did that, and it was just like, and I opened up their websites, and it's literally a clone of one of the other municipalities, including the name of the original municipality
Oh,
on the website. You know, so it was just like,
They
oh,
didn't even clean
okay.
it
So
up.
it was like, almost like opening a Westchester, New York one and saying, in Brookhaven, New York, we, you know, like, oh.
So would you all agree that a mix there of some direct questions with an open-ended section in that, as well as kind of taking number 1 in this section and applying it to number 2 for education would be the correct route to go?
Yes.
Feels right.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what we'll
that
do.
feels right.
Great.
Might you also need to add then another bullet just saying, actually educating the public? Because if we're asking for a plan,
Okay, and I'll leave a comment so I can make it more. Change that.
That is funny, isn't it? Tell us your plan, but you
Yeah.
don't have to
We
do
got a
it.
plan, we didn't. Oh, you wanted us to do that?
Is there anything
That
that
wasn't in
tells us
the
that they have to
scope.
do number 1?
Plan's great.
you know? It's like work backwards here. They have to draft and submit the implementation plan and data protection plan. Do they have to implement
I was gonna
it?
say.
Well, I guess if we
implement-
want to be thorough, we'll
implement
include
the
that.
education plan.
Plan on implementing the plan.
Thanks, Pat.
I look for loopholes for a living.
It's good you're here.
All right.
This is very important. Are we down to, can we move to procurement, or are we still trying to help you wordsmith up there?
I think we can move down, if
I
you
just
don't
love
mind me
it.
putting in a
Your
comment to
literally
fix
says
this
fix.
tab.
Good.
Well, you don't want me to do it right now,
No,
it's
it's fine. It's fine. I love it. I just,
At some point, I have to have my own notes.
yeah.
All right, so item 2, under our procurement strategies. Is that where we are?
Oh, where did I go?
You gotta go back up.
Sorry.
Bunch. There you
Okay.
go.
Yes, it is very important. I think we want
I'm
this.
sorry.
I think this is a debatable thing, but I think since we believe this is the intent of us trying to do this, right, is it's more than saving money. It's about making a difference.
But there's a balance,
Right.
right? I mean, there's a balance. I
Right.
mean,
And we're not
if,
asking them to go completely that way. We're asking them, what would you do to get there?
To get there, right.
Well, as we've had the debate, you can't guarantee that electron, even if you buy 100%
Well, we talk
clean
about
energy,
that
you
with-
can't, say that
Yeah.
electron coming through is from,
Right.
those sources. You're still, buying it from that,
Yep.
but, I think that's,
I have solar panels on my house to offset my car.
and you know that, and you've got a direct
Yes.
source that
And I will
feeds
always
that.
say it that way because I charge my car at night. The sun is not shining at night. So the electricity I am physically using to charge my car is not from my solar panels.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's offset.
Yeah. But, as we
Yes.
discussed earlier, is that the intent, or is that where we want to go, that we're trying to
Yeah.
get to?
We're trying to push for clean energy sources to be used.
It'd be interesting if the respondent to the RFP could put together a typical, maybe what a proposed mix or options of mixes could be. The current utility, if you ever look at those inserts in the bill, if you get the paper bill, once a year they'll publish, it's a pie chart, and it shows historically for the last year where all the sources of electric power came from. So that, I would think that's kind of, on an annual basis, that's kind of what we're trying to do much better than what the utility offering is. So if you look at that, a slice of that is going to be natural gas, nuclear, hydro, solar, wind, and they show that pie chart. So that might be, a useful information to see what the typical breakdown is.
So you probably do that better than a few of us around the table here, because that's kind of your focus, kind of your line of business, if you will. And have you been noticing any major changes? There's probably a little bit of shifting as more solar comes on and maybe some wind.
It's slowly getting, I think, more towards a cleaner sources, only because for the state, the load has decreased by probably 10% versus 10 years ago through more efficient loads and probably a reduction of loads.
So so if we change all these to LEDs, for
Right.
instance, type of thing.
And then also the mix of, because a lot of the loads are made up of commercial businesses, the mix of commercial has changed too somewhat in the area, whether it's, services or manufacturing, things like that. So I think the trend is, because it's going to be the older dirty ones that are being pulled offline. But having, I guess, a comparison like where we are right now and then what the goal might be to achieve, and maybe the first round of contract might be interesting to see.
So just to clarify, you're saying that you think it'd be beneficial to have them show us the different sources that they're getting? Or
Right, a typical mix.
aren't we, maybe I'm not clear on it, but aren't we looking to have it be 100% renewable, or are we looking to have the potential to have 100% renewable or some different mixes? Has that been determined at this point?
So I'll tell you what I have said and what I'm on the record as saying. You know, certainly our goal is to work towards more cleaner fuels to provide our services. However, you know, there is a break point there, if you will, that okay, we can get there, but everybody's bill is going up 10%. I will tell you that not everybody in the town of Penfield will jump up and down and clap to say that's the right thing to do. If it's a few pennies more, you're going to probably have more people on board. But when that gap is such, and so what I've said is that we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best to work towards clean energy. We may not be able to achieve that right out of the gate day one, but that's our goal to work towards. And there's got to be a bit of a balance there overall as we go
So
through.
would it be beneficial in this procurement strategies section, two things, to both take out the for example and do what we did in the other section and make it,
Including but not limited to.
Yeah.
Maybe do that in all the sections if we're interested in getting
Just getting the-
responses to all of these
Yeah.
questions, then otherwise I'm gonna pick and choose.
and then adding a question into it that is something along the lines of what are the potential mixes that are available that include green energy?
Right.
So, and I think it
Would
could
that-
go close to where you have 6. What is the likelihood that the municipality
Exactly,
will procure
yeah.
100% renewable and deliver savings?
Right,
Okay,
so
so-
6 gives them the opportunity, you know,
Provide detail on.
yeah.
Unavailable
Can you,
mixes to
yeah,
achieve
can you
this
do
goal.
that?
We'll get there. Great. Thanks.
That was a good discussion.
Yeah. And a good point.
I like those questions there too. You
Yeah.
know, the way that they're in there,
So to continue,
Continue.
program roles. Hmm?
so. I have no questions in that section.
Okay.
Except for example.
Except for example. Yeah,
Do
except for
wholesale
example.
replacement. We can-
Okay. I'll just, yeah, do that.
All right. Are we at
Program budget?
item item G? Or are we good? Are we good with?
I'm good with D,
Yep.
once we get, once the for example.
D
Yep.
and,
I'll just do them all after.
Yep. Yep. All right.
The timeline is.
Pretty straightforward.
So, are we on to the next one? Ongoing services?
I think so.
Okay. The only thing I do not like is the will you perform? Is that where I saw it? It was like,
Here?
will there be?
Number 2.
Number two.
Vision from the initial
It
concept.
it's almost like they need to all be housed. How will you? You know, like, how will you perform customer service throughout the terms? Like, not will you?
Yeah, it's
How
not,
you, how?
it's not a
Tell me
yes or
how.
no question. It's a,
Like, yeah.
That's fair.
So, and then, so like 4 could almost be the examples of, you know, for example, will there be a dedicated phone line or website provided, you know, as opposed to, you know, so it's like the will yous need to be turned into tell us hows.
yep.
You know, so even like number 5, what public facing reporting will you provide?
Like it.
And I like, do you plan to offer on number 6? I think it's the same way. What additional programs do you plan to offer? As opposed to just giving them, nothing should have a yes
No
or
yes,
no
no
answer.
answers.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. I think that question, that remained from a comment to Phyllis.
Yeah.
So I'll just take that out.
Which one,
But you're right.
legalese one?
My legalese, yeah. The voice changes between the previous sections, this representation and other requirements section, and then the rest of the document.
A little more formal.
This one's, yeah, it's, this entire section, representation and other requirements is just a lot more formal
Yeah.
than the rest of the document.
I think I'm fine with that, because it's a difference between free-forming the proposal to suit you and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, no, here are givens.
Yes. And then I didn't change a lot in this section because it seemed more of a legal section. So the sentence is kind of awkward, and I just wasn't sure if that was okay to change, or if it should just be that way. It should
I
just
would
be
leave
that
it
way?
as is, yep.
Okay.
So, the only, in 2, the expected firm may be required. Is there any reason that we expect them not to be required?
I think that leaves it to the town to request it.
Okay.
It does.
And do we want that, or do we want them to say you will be?
I mean, you
doing
could
this?
do it, you will be required to do this upon, no, I mean, you could say, yeah, you could say that the initial report and quarterly reports thereafter. Yeah, I think you could make it so it's shall, and put the onus on them to do it without us requesting.
Yeah.
But I would leave the firm shall provide such other reports as requested by the town.
So you would like the may to change to shall?
Shall be required to provide regular periodic status. Yeah. Which shall include
Okay.
an initial report and quarterly reports thereafter.
Yeah, number 4 is written that way.
I went through all this formatting. I don't know why it's different.
Don't worry about formatting at the end.
I fixed it already.
You get the content there, and then you go back and
And
worry
then,
about formatting.
again, it's the same legal section. It's just an awkward sounding sentence. Just leave it?
So do we need to
Okay.
be, well, this is the lawyer question, the selected firm, the firm, do we need to be?
Yeah, I don't know why they go back and forth. It is the selected firm.
Well, yeah, it is the selected firm, the firm that defended.
Well, 2 says the selected firm, 3 says the firm, 4 says
Well,
the
it says
selected
that the
firm.
Well,
following
one is
requirements will be
based on-
made part of any
on
agreement
performance.
into between the town and selected firm. That's at the top.
Right.
So then it goes back and forth between the town and the selected, or the firm
and selected.
and the selected firm.
You could take
So
selected
are
out
we
of
okay
this.
at that
and-
point just to go forward after that preface and then everywhere else just use the word firm?
I was just gonna say,
Yes.
take out select.
Okay, take out select, okay.
So just have it be the firm.
firm.
The firm.
The firm.
Great. you content in that section or more with that?
Yeah, I think 5 is standard boilerplate. Like,
Yeah, that's an
indefinitely
indemnification.
language, and I think there's
Yep.
nothing you can do about that.
Okay. So proposal information. We did agree we would add an education section to this, so that's not in there right now, but we'll add that. The first question is, do we want to only have email so that we can keep documentation? That I was hesitant to have telephone.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
Truthfully, as staff, having it an email rather than a telephone would help keep that documentation for us.
So just more of a, just throw it out for a general discussion. So, sometimes it's beneficial to, sometimes email.
Yeah,
There's
that's right.
the importance of getting it properly documented. But sometimes too much might be read into an email without some upfront conversation.
Okay.
So I made a note, do we do both?
Oh, okay.
Meaning that, okay, so I'm having the conversation, and then, oh, by the way, hey, Matt, can you just kind of write that up and summarize that so that we've got it for an email, so it's.
So phone and email
So
rather than
That was kind of
or.
where I was, that's kind of where I was.
I think
at.
that's great.
But, certainly important to make sure that you have that paper trail documentation.
So do we want to say that it will be email, or will be telephone with follow-up email or email? I mean, I don't know if you want to actually say that we will be expecting you
I was thinking a similar thing,
Yeah.
either by phone with follow-up email or.
to. And I would almost have to reverse it to do it that way then. Either by email or telephone with follow-up email. It's like so that you don't have the email together.
Typically with an
That
RFP,
works.
if someone's asking a question and we're providing a response, we typically would want to make sure the response went to
Well, that's what we said. It has
all
to
of the
go- it has
RFPs.
to go to everybody,
So then, as they ask
yeah.
questions, if we've got it electronically, then we can push responses
Yeah.
back to everybody so that all the administrators, whether they asked a question or not, at least are
They all see it.
seeing the same response.
So if we did the communication, outreach, training, education section would be before this or after this? Or added section? It would be before this, because this is how to do the proposal.
Would seem to be, before that.
Yeah.
Is it in the table of contents? Is it what we're asking them to do?
Sorry, say that question again?
I'm just looking, I just skimmed ahead to what the proposal should look like. And I just got real confused, because it's like, why do we tell them all the stuff up above if we're gonna tell them what to put in the proposal down below? Is that just all duplicate?
When I read through it, I thought that there was some duplicate information.
So everything that we've just tweaked up above will have to be tweaked down below?
Okay.
So my question was, we talked about adding more specific information requests on the education program.
Correct.
So that would be duplicated, that would be added above and then duplicated in the proposal details as well.
Yep.
And what would we want that to include other than?
So we included a plan, a timeline. I have it in my other note.
Okay, so we gave you enough information?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I think file types we can probably figure out internally, right?
Yeah.
So are they, okay, they don't have to do with hard copy?
So they do have to do it hard
They
copy,
have to do it hard
and they
copy.
have to do it digitally. And that's normally our standard in our engineering and planning department.
Okay, perfect. So B is kind of normal course of business for you guys?
Yep. She's up here. Where is she? I lost where she is.
Which B were you talking about?
The submission, how to make the submission. B, proposal submission. And
Oh, okay.
Page 11.
Big B.
Is there anything in the chunks below that wasn't really talked about above?
Do you mean like,
Oh, I see there is.
The rest of B?
Insurance and blah, 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 and all
yeah.
that's there, okay.
So the rest of B, so past 2, starting at 5, it's like just a whole lot of details of data, basically. So like in 5 is qualifications, like data founding, legal information, then,
See, and that's where 5II reads very much like the list of things from up above. Provide a comprehensive list of municipalities, identify at least 3, act as references, describe the work performed.
and I think part of the point of that is just a checklist.
Okay.
Truthfully, it's following the format of Brookhaven, which is why we kept it.
So I would just make sure
Just
that
make sure we carry over.
whatever we've done up on top, that it does get
Duplicate it.
included below.
Yep.
Staff. So should we look at like 12, the evaluation procedure? That's pretty much standard as well, what we're gonna look at in the scoring criteria. And this is the one out of 100 points.
Correct.
What's bonus points?
And it adds up to 100.
Matt, some of the language switches from firm and proposer. Is that
As long
okay
as it's
with you?
defined as both,
Okay.
then that's fine.
So, I'm in 13, the very bottom. Upon conclusion of the evaluation process, the evaluation committee will then select a proposer to be recommended.
Sure. Yeah.
Do we need anything in there that says you all suck or start it over?
Up in
I
the
thought we
top,
had
it says
that.
we've,
That's at the top of
We
that?
reserve the right.
no, it said back in that legal section,
Say
number
right.
1, the town reserves absolute right to terminate,
It's 12, the end of 12.
12, okay.
Towns reserves
Yeah,
the right,
sure.
and we have that,
Yeah,
I think.
I know I saw it.
We have that as a local law as well.
We do.
Within the town, 1, to say we reserve the right to deny at the end of an RFP if we don't like anybody, and then 2, I know Barbara worked on updating it, I'm not gonna get the
Oh,
phrase
no,
right.
there it is. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Number
C,
C.
the
Less qualified
town
or whatever.
reserves the right to
Letter C.
reject all proposals and make no
Yeah.
award. Okay.
Yeah, and we've even updated our code that basically says we also can select who we think is the,
Okay.
doesn't have to be the lowest bidder, the best qualified or,
Yeah.
best interest of the town. If somebody's the lowest and they're clearly not qualified, then you can show justification why or why not, but
Okay. Good, good, good. This is really good, you guys. Really amazing amount of
work from here. Even though I know you
Yeah.
copied a lot from somebody, you really didn't copy a lot, or you really.
Be our resident expert.
I'm sure trying.
Well done.
All right, we're general info.
Yep.
Is that where we're next?
Yep. Some of this is a little more legal for the oral communication stuff. At least I think so. It will need to be determined who the contact persons are. Currently, Mark and I are at the top. We'll have to decide whether that's an internal decision or if that's an EAC or a town board decision.
So when we do RFPs, we'll do a resolution authorizing, and then the town clerk is the one that tends to have them available. So if there was any modification or change, that would probably be done by staff, EAC, some combination thereof. And then the town clerk keeps.
Route that through the town clerk.
Right, town clerk keeps who has picked up. Doesn't necessarily mean who picked up is gonna give a proposal, but we want to at least go out to that same list of who
Yep.
picked up so that they had any updated information.
So currently, the town clerk's office is who has that information.
Yep.
But part of the contact person stuff is who would be getting those technical questions,
That would
which
be-
is,
That, to me, that would come into engineering, planning and engineering.
okay.
Then we would help answer.
Yeah. We just wanted a definitive final decision, say.
I think that makes sense. I think it makes sense that
Yeah.
it goes to you guys.
5:30 budget review meeting.
Okay.
Barbara.
The rest of it really is, it's really straightforward. There weren't really many questions that we had. And then the only other thing I had specifically was the standard agreement. If you want, we can continue going through each section. Again, I know it was short notice, so I don't know if everyone got to actually read through it.
I did.
Well, and I think some of the stuff, we'll run by Dick Horowitz as well, just to make sure, the front of the stuff, I think, is this committee, what do we want, what do we need, what information, obviously, before we send an RFP out, make sure that the town attorney has, an opportunity to take a look at it, make sure he's happy with the
Protect your
the legal portions of it and everything else, and.
Why did it get all capped there for some reason?
That was how it came. And I didn't know if it needed to stay all capped.
Is there a significance to that? From a legal
I've seen-
perspective,
No,
all capped?
capital letters do not.
I'm sorry for giggling.
Do not hold more weight than lowercase letters.
Texting line,
The other
you're
stuff,
yelling at me.
the other stuff
Like now
you
we're
can ignore.
shouting,
but
so.
That one line is.
Proposal.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you can.
You gotta know that every one of these documents is a hybrid of something else someone found.
Somebody's improved and.
And that's the town
Nobody-
of somebody else's.
So
It was the
I-
first person that's actually read it to this
14th
point.
generation.
Everybody else went,
So-
that's
That's
good to go.
If I had to guess,
It's a
I would say,
Franken
because
thing.
it has to do with trade secrets and things like that, that they're trying to draw attention to it so that they actually read it, and maybe have this conversation. So if there ever gets into court litigation, you can say, did you see the part that's in big letters?
It was buried on page 17 of the document, and I didn't see it.
No,
Well,
it wasn't, we
It
were
was in
shouting.
Big, large letters.
If it's
But
okay,
no, while it is in big letters, so it's really important.
if it's okay, I can make it not all caps.
Whatever you
Um,
want to do.
Well, I don't want it to look stupid,
That's not
so.
fair. It's like, is it okay, if we recommend that she makes it normal.
Well, let's see
font,
what
then-
Horowitz wants to do. How's that?
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
say,
okay. Flag-
That's
flag
his
it for
call.
yellow for him to
Yeah.
ask that question.
Yeah.
Is
I
it
would
some
say-
We
reason
care
that-
what it says. He can say how it needs to look.
yeah, we make the changes based on this group's recommendations. We'll leave the legal stuff as it is, and then
We
we'll
think
provide
other
it to him.
things
and-
just as important.
Yeah, he can look at it and say, no, that's fine, or, yeah, make it,
Yeah.
But that's always bold, you know, or always capital. Everything I've ever written.
Yeah, I just needed some input on that too.
Yeah.
No, it does not hold more weight.
Thanks.
I would change to the town's attorney, because I don't think that Dick is like the solidified
you should say to-
internal town attorney. I think
No, we
it's the
say-
town's attorney.
Yeah,
Where does it say
It
that?
says town attorney office. Go down.
I think it's the next one down. We're in your one. that
Town
you were asking
attorney's
about.
office.
So town
Yeah,
attorney,
Just take out
right?
office,
Town's
put town's
attorney.
attorney.
And are most of them for 2 years?
The ones I've seen
I think
are.
Yeah.
typical
Just
2
seems
years.
like no time at all, doesn't it?
I think we, didn't one point we talk and see if they recommended 3 or more? Or is 2 the pretty much the standard for the,
Yeah, 2 was the last I remember.
okay.
I know in one
Yeah.
of the meetings that we had, one of the administrators recommended
Or
3 or more.
Company, but maybe the first
But
time you
I-
do 2 on the first out of the box, and then if you want to.
What's to the town's advantage, I guess, is the question.
I
but
think there's
it
a
seems-
benefit by having a longer term because if rates go up drastically, then you're still locked into that term. However, if rates go down, then
Yeah.
you're still locked into that term.
I mean, it's like
so that-
anything in
I
life,
don't know
you're,
what the New York State law says. It might be set forth in the law.
Oh, for the term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Two years
I think
is
it's a minimum of
beneficial
2
because
years.
if you only
Local
give
law
them 2 years to
for-
prove it, or we're gonna find
get
somebody
get another
else,
administrator, or,
then they have to be on point, but 2 years, as I said, is no time at all. You know, that's,
I wonder, for renewal, what happens, I wonder if there's a time period. Let's say you get 30 days before, and then they say, we aren't going to renew on their end. Then does it, I guess it would revert back to the utility default?
I would assume, yeah, I
do we
mean.
need to ask that question?
And who manages that?
It's
At
probably.
the end of the two, because that's a very important question to me, is how much time would you need to extend? And in the
Right.
event that we don't choose to extend
good.
it, what happens?
Probably should have an option either way. Within 3 or 4 months of the renewal date, both parties shall agree to either extend or.
Yeah, when do you start negotiating the next 2-year term?
Yeah. If
You
we're
know, I
done with
think
them or
you'd
they're done with
want-
us, whatever.
You'd want like 6 months beforehand.
Yeah.
That is really weird that that's just such a nebulous.
And maybe it's in the PSC order. Maybe there's some more things in there that, you know, and I don't know if
Yeah,
Sarah's,
when I was looking at Westchester Power, it seems like the communication, I don't know, I think they renewed in March or April, and I think there
Mhm.
was activity started in fall about the
Okay.
renewal.
okay.
I'd have to get out my box, but,
Yeah, you have to give, there has to be some serious timeline, I would think, which is interesting.
Yeah, I wonder.
So I think if it's a renewal, I would expect your timeline to be shorter than if you were not renewing and you were switching.
Right.
If you were just canceling, which I would expect to be very uncommon, I don't think the timeline would matter.
But if you decided not to accept the new contract.
Yes, and like do an RFP.
Then you have to start all over again. Yeah.
And
what
I think that's a
happens
long
in between
timeline.
time?
Well, that's
You know,
got to be
that's-
addressed
I think that's
by
like
the
an
PSC,
extension or-
because I was thinking too, what happens if, not that it would happen, but things happen, if the administrator does not perform? Something happens with his supply chain and he cannot perform to the contract. You still have to have a method where people are going to be supplied power and be billed for that power. And that's probably buried in the PSC order somewhere.
I agree.
And maybe some of
There
that
is a lot
stuff we
in
don't
there.
have to worry about, but I'd be interested for the, I guess, how the renewal cycle works.
There was in the documents that we got from the Arundecoit and
Yeah.
whatever group, Monroe Community Power. After the RFP was issued and they sent more questions to Jewel, one of the specific questions was, what if you do not deliver? Like you do not perform? It would be something to consider if we want to include that as a question in the RFP. Just upfront ask.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
could consider that as part of their contract later, or we can consider doing it upfront.
Yeah,
Like
and we got to
to
think,
upfront.
there's going to be a contract besides this that
Yes.
would include a lot of those, but it's kind of good to
Yeah.
get some of those out in the RFP from the beginning, but
I did put that in as a note.
this isn't the final
We
contract.
can figure out where
and
that
this
would
isn't
go, if that's what the committee
final
wants
agreement, so
as it
there's still-
upfront. Okay. So we'll add
Okay.
that in as a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
That's funny that we didn't think of that till all of a sudden.
I
it's
had
like-
completely forgotten that
Well, I
was
mean, normally
part of
the-
that, one of
normally
those
the agreement
documents.
covers that part of it, but I think in the
Yeah.
RFP, you would
But
at
this
least
one,
have
has
some.
that term of contract is just like, so, that goes for 2 years, we might extend it?
It's like, it's like, it's like you have a landlord and 30 days before your lease runs out, he tells you, you have to move.
Right,
Or you're telling them you're going to renew or not renew, and then
Yeah.
if you're not renewing, you have to give notice, and
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's actually pointless too. I mean, if you think about it, they can either, you can always agree to extend it or not extend it.
True. That's their
I mean,
prerogative.
and
Yeah.
the last sentence, it's got to be made upon mutual agreement. So they're either making a new contract or they're not.
right. But it just, to me, there should be some sort of way that we'll be able to know upfront.
I
You
don't
know,
disagree.
at least
In
you're
the
laying the,
proposal, well, we're only gonna do it for 2 years anyway,
Laying
and
the
we're just
ground
gonna
rules.
totally jump ship, and we're going to, you know, like, leave all your customers without power, and.
And maybe, maybe
I
the
don't think
process
anybody-
is, 6 months, they communicate and say, we're working on the next term contract. We should have numbers for you in,
yeah, they're
and
going to
then-
have to go out to the market and see
Yeah.
what the market's looking like, and, what they can get for the next 2-year term, and
So page 18 is the last page in this document prior to essentially pages they fill out, like appendix documents. I don't know if there's any specific questions on those extra exhibits.
I personally need to get moving.
Yeah.
I felt that they were all pretty much standard requirements, so I didn't,
Okay.
I read the Iran one with like Greek, like, what?
Say that again?
There's the one.
Oh,
are you doing
I don't
business
know
with that? Well, is
why
that
that's a
valid,
thing.
or-
What? What's up?
There's,
There was it's like a whole page of, are you doing business with Iran? If so, you
Yep.
have to declare it to
Oh, yeah,
us, and-
it's,
Because
this
it's
one.
energy, probably.
Pursuant to the Iran Divestment Act of 2012, it's a
New York
it's
law.
because it's
New York
sanctions
law.
against
Yeah,
Iran.
yeah.
okay.
So it seemed like it was something we needed to have, I figured Dick would make that decision.
Yeah, as we go through it, he'll take a look at that. Anybody else have any final comments? I think we've hit our
Yeah, we put our limit here.
our limit. Everybody looks, and it's got to get wrapping up.
And if there is anything that comes up, please feel free to reach out.
Is there anything that you'd like us to read more than what we just scanned here for those of us that now is the first time I've looked at it?
If, I think specifically if there's anything additional for the education stuff, just because that's not anything that's very fleshed out. I think that's the most that we could really use input for.
And I have examples of timelines and all of that that I've found, that are in my box, that I could.
Okay.
She's seen the box.
I've seen the box.
That I can dig out and we can look through.
Great. And we'll keep it going.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for
Yeah, good job.
preparing that, and sending it
Nice
out.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you for help.
Obviously, we'll clean it up, we'll share it back with the group, and then,
And
I know
save
I came late on the calendar, but we can incorporate that stuff, and then, share it back with the group and
Great.
circle back from there, so.
Yeah, so I think if his timeline's fine, and we'll just make sure that
Yeah.
the Q&A stuff gets shoved in the middle there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we'll update it, and I had,
So do we have enough that we'd be comfortable meeting with the town board on September 9th to review a final draft? Does that give us enough time?
our next meeting currently is September 23rd.
Yeah.
Did he?
He has like a
Oh.
little work schedule, it looks like here,
Oh,
that he shoved across, I don't know. Am I the
Yeah,
only
he-
one that gets to see this piece of paper?
I
do
had
have
it, and then he
that.
took it from me and gave it to you.
I got that.
Calendar, okay, so August
Um,
12th and then September 9th was meet with town board at a work session to review the final draft.
Oh, that might be a little.
That's pretty aggressive.
that might be doable.
Well, we gotta make changes,
That's 2 weeks,
updates.
Mark.
Changes, updates.
Dick.
we need
After my
to
vacation.
vet it with-
Send it back to this group, make sure this
Yeah.
group is okay with it. I mean, we can chat with Tony after this and see where, he's at and his comfort level with it, but, I guess we'll ask the question and let the group know where we're going or what the plan forward is.
And maybe you or Tony could send an email to the group to let them know what that decision is.
Yep, will do.
Great. Thank you for the input. It's been very helpful.
Okay. Let's see, and this
We're
was.
gonna wanna use ours.
This was our main agenda item. With that, we'll close this meeting, the EAC for tonight. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Thanks for your input.